Major Lucas Hart stared at the holographic display in his starship's cockpit, his eyes narrowing as the data streamed in. A massive asteroid hurling through space was on a direct collision course with Xillia, a lush alien world known for its towering crystalline forests and sprawling cities suspended in mid-air. The asteroid's impact would be catastrophic, capable of wiping out every living being on the planet. Lucas was on a routine reconnaissance mission for the Galactic Alliance when the emergency transmission came through. His orders were clear: avoid interference. Yet as he monitored the Cian's frantic but futile attempts to divert the asteroid, something within him snapped. He'd seen too much destruction in his years of service and couldn't stand idly by while an entire civilization was erased. "Damn the orders," Lucas muttered, gripping the controls of his ship, the Sentinel's resolve. With a flick of switches, the ship's weapon systems came online, its energy reserves rerouted to the plasma cannons. His onboard AI, Icarus, chimed in. "Major Hart, engaging the asteroid may deplete the ship's energy reserves to critical levels." "I'm aware, Icarus," Lucas replied tersely, "but if we don't, there won't be a Xillia left." The asteroid loomed larger as Lucas accelerated toward it, the Sentinel's engines roaring. Targeting systems locked onto the weakest structural points of the massive rock. With precision, Lucas fired a barrage of plasma blasts. The asteroid fractured into smaller fragments, its trajectory altered just enough to miss the planet. As Lucas breathed a sigh of relief, his ship's alarms blared. The energy reserves were nearly drained, and the ship had suffered damage from the asteroid's debris. He managed to guide the Sentinel to a crash landing on the outskirts of Xillia's capital, Xia Prime, the glow of its crystalline towers lighting up the night sky. Before he could even step out of the wreckage, a crowd of Xians surrounded his ship, their luminous eyes and shimmering scaled skin reflecting awe and gratitude, as they realized the human before them had saved their planet. Lucas was escorted to the celestial citadel, the grand palace of King Varnax, ruler of Xillia. The palace was a marvel of alien engineering, with its walls made of living crystal that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's energy. The Cian's advanced technology made Lucas feel out of place, but he walked with confidence, his boots echoing against the polished floors. At the heart of the palace, in a throne room that glimmered like a starry sky, King Varnax awaited. The monarch was an imposing figure, his 7-foot-tall frame covered in scales that shimmered like molten silver. Beside him stood his queen, Elisa, her presence no less commanding, but tempered by a warm smile. "Major Lucas Hart," King Varnax intoned, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. "You have done what none of our own could. You have saved Xillia from annihilation. For this, you have our eternal gratitude." Lucas bowed slightly, unsure of the proper etiquette. "I couldn't stand by and let your planet be destroyed, Your Majesty. I did what anyone would." "Humility," Elisa said, her voice melodic, a rare quality among those who wield power. King Varnax stepped forward, his gaze piercing. "Your actions merit a reward beyond measure. Wealth, power, technology. Name your desire, and it shall be yours." Lucas hesitated, his mind racing. The last thing he wanted was material wealth or political favour. Before he could respond, the king continued, his expression shifting to one of curiosity. "Perhaps something less conventional then. We Xians value loyalty and companionship. Among our customs is the gifting of those who have served us well. Would you accept such a gift?" Lucas frowned. "What do you mean by gift?" King Varnax gestured, and the doors to the throne room opened. 3 women entered, their presence commanding attention. They were not dressed as royalty, but wore intricate silver bands around their wrists, symbols of their servitude. These were the Curian bondmaids, wild and rebellious slaves known for their unyielding spirits and exceptional talents. The first, Zara, had eyes like molten fire, her crimson hair flowing down her back. Her defiant gaze met Lucas's without hesitation. The second Mia moved like a shadow, her dark star-speckled skin and sharp features giving her an enigmatic allure. The third, Lyra, carried herself like a warrior, her physique powerful, and her golden eyes gleaming with intelligence. "These are my Curian bondmaids," Varnax explained. "They are unyielding, untamed, and fiercely loyal to those who earn their trust. I offer them to you, Major, as a sign of our gratitude." Lucas's stomach churned. The idea of accepting anyone as a possession went against everything he believed in. "Your Majesty," he began carefully, "I'm honoured by your offer, but I don't believe in—" Varnax raised a hand, silencing him. "I see your hesitation. Know this. Their lives are bound by duty, but you may choose how to guide them, free them, train them, or let them remain as they are. The decision will be yours." Lucas glanced at the women, each watching him intently. Zara's smirk hinted at amusement. Maya's gaze was calculating, and Lyra's expression was unreadable. He realized that this choice could change their lives, and his, forever. "Very well," Lucas said finally, his voice firm. "I'll accept your gift, but only if they choose to come with me." The three women exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from surprise to curiosity. Zara was the first to speak, her tone laced with challenge. "You want us to choose? Bold of you, human." Mia tilted her head, her voice soft but sharp. "And if we refuse?" "Then you stay here," Lucas replied simply. "I'm not forcing anyone into anything." For a moment the room was silent. Then Lyra stepped forward, her golden eyes locked onto Lucas's. "We'll come with you," she said, "if only to see what kind of man defies a king." The other two nodded, and King Varnax smiled. "It is settled. May this bond bring prosperity to both our peoples." As Lucas left the throne room with the three women by his side, he couldn't help but feel that his journey on Xillia was just beginning, and that the challenges ahead would be unlike anything he'd faced before. The journey back to Lucas Hart's ship, the Sentinel's Resolve, was marked by an uneasy silence. The three Curian bondmaids walked beside him, their expressions guarded and their movements fluid, like predators assessing a new territory. Lucas, still grappling with the implications of King Varnax's gift, felt the weight of their gazes, each one carrying a mix of curiosity and defiance. The moment they reached the damaged ship, Zara, the fiery one, crossed her arms and let out a low whistle. "This is what you're calling home? Looks like it barely survived the crash." Lucas smirked, leaning against the hull. "She's seen worse days. Just needs a little TLC." Maya, the shadowy one, moved closer, her dark star-speckled skin seeming to blend into the twilight. "TLC? Is that another human euphemism, or are you suggesting this ship has feelings?" Lucas chuckled. "Tender, loving care. And no, she doesn't have feelings, but she's got character, like someone else I just met." Lyra, the golden-eyed warrior, remained silent, her sharp gaze fixed on the ship. She stepped forward, running her hand along the hull. "It's sturdy enough, but it's going to take more than care to get it space-worthy again. You've got parts missing and your core is running hot." Lucas raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You're an engineer?" "I was," Lyra said simply, "before I became what I am now." Zara leaned against the ship's entrance, her smirk widening. "So, Captain Hero, what's your plan? Are we just going to stand here bonding over this hunk of metal, or do you actually have a destination in mind?" Lucas straightened, his tone firm. "First, we fix the ship. Then we figure out how to work together. I'm not looking to command anyone. You're free to leave if you want, but if you stay, we're a team. No masters, no servants." The three women exchanged glances, their expressions shifting subtly. Zara's smirk softened. Ma's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Lyra nodded almost imperceptibly. It was clear they weren't used to being treated as equals. "Fine," Zara said, pushing off the wall. "Let's see what kind of leader you are, Captain." Repairing the Sentinel's resolve was no small task. The ship had sustained significant damage during the asteroid incident, and resources were limited. Lucas and the bondmaids spent the next several days working tirelessly, each bringing their unique skills to the table. Lyra quickly took charge of the repairs, her knowledge of engineering far surpassing Lucas's expectations. She coordinated the group with precision, delegating tasks and explaining complex systems with ease. Zara proved to be a quick learner, her natural curiosity driving her to master the ship's weapons and defense systems. Mira, on the other hand, explored the ship's database, uncovering hidden features and optimizing its performance. Despite their efficiency, tension simmered beneath the surface. The bondmaids were fiercely independent, and their personalities often clashed. Zara's fiery temperament led to frequent arguments with Lyra's no-nonsense attitude, while Mia's cryptic remarks often left everyone guessing her true intentions. One afternoon, as Lucas worked alongside Zara on the ship's plasma turrets, she let out a frustrated groan. "I don't get you, Captain. You swoop in, save the planet, and now you're playing house with a bunch of rebellious slaves. What's your angle?" Lucas paused, meeting her gaze. "No angle. I just don't believe anyone should live in chains." Zara studied him for a moment, her fiery eyes narrowing. "You really believe that, don't you? Even though you barely know us?" "I don't need to know your past to see your worth," Lucas replied, "and I'm not here to make decisions for you. You decide who you want to be." For the first time, Zara's smirk faltered. She looked away, her voice quieter. "You're either the most naive human I've ever met, or the bravest." Later that evening, as the team gathered in the ship's central lounge for a brief respite, the tension boiled over. Lyra, who had been reviewing the ship's repair logs, slammed a datapad onto the table. "We're not going to make it off this planet without scavenging more parts," she said, her tone sharp. "And I don't trust the locals not to turn on us." "Maybe, if you didn't scare them with your no-nonsense routine, they'd be more willing to help," Zara shot back, her arms crossed. Lyra's golden eyes narrowed. "This isn't about charm, Zara. It's about survival." "Enough," Lucas interjected, his voice firm. "We're all on the same side here. If we're going to get off this planet, we need to focus." Maya, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke. "He's right. We're stronger together than apart. But we can't keep dancing around the truth." Lucas turned to her, his brow furrowed. "What truth?" Maya's silver eyes gleamed. "We've been shaped by years of servitude and rebellion. Trust doesn't come easy to any of us. But if you expect us to follow you, we need to know that you're not just another master hiding behind kind words." Lucas met her gaze, his voice steady. "I'm not asking for your trust blindly. I'm asking for a chance to earn it." The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them. Lyra's expression softened, and Zara's fiery defiance gave way to a grudging nod. Mia's enigmatic smile returned, her eyes flickering with something akin to respect. "All right, Captain," Lyra said finally. "You've got your chance. Don't waste it." As the days turned into weeks, the ship neared completion, and the team began to gel despite their differences. Lucas's unwavering commitment to treating the bondmaids as equals slowly broke down their walls, and they began to see him not as a master, but as a leader worth following. Their journey together was just beginning, but for the first time, Lucas felt a spark of hope. These women, once bound by chains, were now bound by choice, and together they would face whatever challenges the galaxy had in store. The Sentinel's resolve hummed faintly in the dim light of Zia's twin moons, its repairs nearing completion. But as the team prepared for their departure, the fragile trust they had begun to build faced its first true test. The locals, having heard of the presence of the Curian bondmaids aboard Lucas's ship, grew restless. To some they were symbols of rebellion, to others relics of a past that should remain buried. Lucas stood on the ship's gangway, facing a gathering crowd of Zans outside the docking station. Their glowing eyes reflected a mix of fear and anger. "Captain Hart," a Zan elder called, stepping forward. His scaled robe shimmered in the moonlight. "We have heard rumours that you intend to leave with the bondmaids. They are dangerous, untamable. You bring risk to yourself and to our people." Lucas kept his tone steady, though the weight of the situation pressed on him. "They're not a danger to anyone. They've been prisoners long enough. It's time they had a choice in how they live." The elder's gaze hardened. "You misunderstand. They are not just women. They are forces of chaos. Each one has defied the natural order in ways that shook our society. Do you truly believe they can be trusted?" Behind him, the bondmaids emerged, their presence commanding. Zara, her crimson hair blazing in the moonlight, crossed her arms and smirked. "Oh, please, Chaos. Is that what you call refusing to bow to cowards?" Lyra, the golden-eyed warrior, stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We've earned our freedom through blood and fire. Don't mistake survival for rebellion." Mira, the shadowy strategist, added with a quiet but cutting tone, "And don't mistake fear for wisdom, Elder. Perhaps it's not us you should be wary of, but the system that made us." The crowd murmured, their unease growing. Lucas raised a hand, silencing them. "They're not the danger you think they are. They've proven themselves capable of more than you give them credit for. And if anyone wants to test that," he added, his voice sharpening, "you'll answer to me." The tension hung thick in the air until the elder finally relented, stepping back with a wary nod. "Very well, human, but remember, chaos follows where they walk. Do not let it consume you." Back on the ship, the bondmaids gathered in the lounge, the mood tense. Zara sprawled across a chair, her fiery demeanour masking something deeper. "You really stuck your neck out for us back there, Captain. Why?" Lucas leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Because I meant what I said. You deserve to make your own choices, and if standing by you costs me, so be it." Lyra studied him, her sharp gaze softening ever so slightly. "You realize you're putting yourself between us and an entire planet's judgment." "I've been in worse positions," Lucas replied, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "And besides, I've got you three watching my back." Mira's enigmatic smile returned as she leaned forward, her voice low. "You may be more dangerous than we thought, Captain." The Sentinel's systems hummed to life as Lyra powered up the final engines. Repairs were complete, and the ship was ready for its maiden flight post-crash. Lucas stood at the bridge, watching the stars through the reinforced glass. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself a moment of relief, but that relief was short-lived. "Captain," Lyra's voice crackled through the intercom from the engine room. "We've got a breach in the docking bay. Someone's coming aboard." Lucas grabbed his sidearm and rushed toward the docking bay, Zara and Mira at his heels. The sound of clashing metal and shouted orders echoed through the corridors. As they reached the source of the commotion, a group of armed mercenaries, their armour marked with the sigil of a local bounty guild, stood in the docking bay, their weapons trained on the bondmaids. "Stand down," Lucas barked, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "What's the meaning of this?" The leader of the mercenaries, a hulking Sian with crimson scales, stepped forward. "We've come for the bondmaids. There's a bounty on their heads. Hand them over, and no one gets hurt." Zara let out a sharp laugh, her plasma pistol already drawn. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." Lyra's voice was ice cold. "You're making a mistake. Mira, always calculating, tilted her head. "Did the king send you, or are you just opportunists?" The mercenary leader sneered. "The king doesn't need to send us. Half the galaxy would pay a fortune for what you're worth." Lucas stepped in front of the women, his weapon raised. "They're under my protection. You want them, you go through me." The room tensed as the mercenaries hesitated, their leader weighing his options. Finally, he growled, "Have it your way. Take them down." The battle erupted in an instant. Plasma fire lit up the docking bay as Lucas and the bondmaids fought as a unit, their training and instinct weaving together seamlessly. Zara's fiery nature translated into bold, aggressive attacks, her pistol taking down enemies with pinpoint accuracy. Lyra used her combat training to disarm and disable, her movements precise and lethal. Maera, always one step ahead, manipulated the environment, using the ship's automated systems to create barriers and blind the mercenaries. Lucas covered their flanks, his own skills honed by years of experience. He felt the adrenaline coursing through him, but also a strange sense of unity. These women, who had once been strangers, now fought as though they had been a team for years. The mercenaries fell one by one until the leader stood alone, his weapon shaking in his hands. Lucas advanced on him, his voice low and deadly. "Leave now and tell whoever sent you that the bondmaids are off limits." The mercenary hesitated, then turned and fled, his wounded pride visible in every step. As the docking bay door sealed, Lucas turned to the bondmaids, his chest heaving. "Is this what I should expect from now on?" Zara grinned, wiping a streak of blood from her cheek. "Probably. Still think we're worth the trouble?" Lucas met her gaze, his voice unwavering. "Absolutely." For a moment the room was silent. Then Lyra stepped forward, her expression softening. "You didn't have to fight for us, but you did. That means something." Mira nodded, her silver eyes gleaming. "Perhaps chaos does follow us, but with you, Captain, it seems chaos might finally have a purpose." As they returned to the bridge, the Sentinel lifted off, its engines roaring to life. Together they charted a course for the stars, their bond forged not by obligation, but by choice. And though challenges awaited them, Lucas knew they would face them as a team, stronger together than they had ever been apart. The Sentinel's resolve cruised through the uncharted nebula, its exterior glinting in the iridescent glow of distant stars. Inside, tension hung heavy in the air. Despite the mercenary attack that had solidified their bond as a team, the bondmaids still wrestled with their own mistrust, not just of Lucas, but of each other. They were free now, but freedom brought complexities none of them were prepared to face. Lucas sat in the cockpit, his gaze fixed on the swirling colours outside. He felt the weight of his role, not as a master, but as a leader trying to unite three fiercely independent women. The intercom crackled, breaking his thoughts. "Captain," Lyra's voice came through, clipped and tense. "We've got a situation in the cargo bay." Lucas sighed, already expecting the worst. He made his way to the cargo bay, where he found Zara and Mira locked in a heated argument. Lyra stood off to the side, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "You're sabotaging us," Zara snapped, her fiery eyes blazing. "Every time we gain ground, you pull something like this to undermine it." Mira's voice was cool, but the venom beneath it was unmistakable. "If you could think beyond your fists for a moment, you'd see I'm trying to protect us from your recklessness." "What's going on here?" Lucas demanded, his tone sharp enough to cut through the tension. Zara turned to him, her hands clenched into fists. "She's been tinkering with the ship's navigation systems. I caught her rerouting our course without telling anyone." Mira didn't deny it. Instead, she folded her arms, her silver eyes gleaming with defiance. "We're being tracked. I've intercepted encrypted signals targeting our position. If we stick to the planned route, We're walking into a trap. Lyra finally spoke, her voice measured. And you didn't think to inform us? I didn't have time for a committee meeting, Mira replied coolly. I acted to keep us alive. Lucas took a deep breath, his frustration mounting. Mira, you should have come to me first. This isn't just your fight anymore. We're a team. Mira's gaze softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. A team survives by anticipating threats, not debating them. Lucas turned to Zara. And you. If she's right about the tracking signals, this isn't the time for arguments. We need to focus on staying ahead of whoever's after us. Zara let out a frustrated growl, but stepped back, her fiery energy dissipating slightly. Fine, but this team thing works both ways. She needs to stop playing shadow games. Mira's lips quirked in a faint smirk. Noted. As the tension eased, Lyra stepped forward, her tone pragmatic. We need a new course, one that takes us off-grid long enough to analyze these signals. I'll work with Mira to ensure we're not being led into another ambush. Lucas nodded. Do it. And from now on, no unilateral decisions. We survive together, or not at all. The Sentinel drifted into a dead sector, a desolate pocket of space far from trade routes and communication hubs. It was a place of eerie silence, where the stars seemed dimmer and the void pressed heavily against the ship's hull. The perfect place to lay low and regroup. Lucas gathered the bondmaids in the briefing room, the central table displaying a holographic map of the ship's recent routes. Mira stood beside him, her fingers dancing across the controls, as she highlighted the intercepted signals. These transmissions are sophisticated, she explained. Whoever is tracking us has resources far beyond a simple mercenary group. Zara leaned forward, her fiery gaze locked on the map. Let me guess, one of King Varnak's enemies, or someone who wants us back in chains. Possibly, Mira replied, her tone clipped, but it's more likely a bounty broker, the kind who deals in rare commodities. Lyra's voice cut through the discussion. That means they're not just coming for us. They'll keep coming for as long as we're alive. The room fell silent as the weight of her words settled over them. Lucas finally broke the silence, his voice steady. Then we make it clear we're not worth the trouble. Zara's smirk returned. I liked the sound of that. Their opportunity came sooner than expected. As Mira worked to decrypt the signals, an unknown vessel appeared on their long-range scanners, closing in fast. The ship was sleek and heavily armed, its design unlike anything Lucas had seen before. They're jamming our comms, Lyra reported from the cockpit. No chance of talking our way out of this, Zara said, already heading to the weapons console. Lucas followed her, his mind racing. Mira, can you disable their tracking systems? I can try, she said, her fingers flying across the controls. But it'll take time. Buy her that time, Lucas ordered, his voice firm. Lyra, take evasive maneuvers. Zara, get those turrets ready. The Sentinel shuddered as the enemy ship opened fire, its plasma bolts slamming into their shields. Lyra's steady hands guided the ship through the barrage, her sharp eyes scanning for weak points in their attackers' formation. Zara's laughter rang out as she unleashed a volley of plasma rounds, her fiery personality perfectly suited for the chaos of battle. Come on, you bastards, let's see what you've got. Mira worked furiously, her focus unshakable despite the chaos around her. I've almost got it, just a little more. The ship rocked violently as another hit breached the outer hull. Sparks flew from the consoles and alarms blared. Lucas grabbed a fire suppressant unit, extinguishing a small blaze near Mira's station. Now would be a great time, Mira, he shouted. Done, she exclaimed, slamming a final key. The enemy ship's systems flickered, its weapons falling silent. They're vulnerable, Lyra announced, her voice calm, but with an edge of satisfaction. Now's our chance. Lucas didn't hesitate. Zara, take them out. With a triumphant roar, Zara unleashed the Sentinel's remaining firepower. The enemy ship crumpled under the assault, its engine sputtering before it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. As the dust settled, the crew let out a collective breath. The Sentinel was battered but still operational, their teamwork having carried them through yet another trial. Later, as the crew gathered in the lounge, the mood was quieter, but not somber. Zara lounged on the couch, her fiery grin tempered with exhaustion. "Not bad, Captain. You're starting to grow on me." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes thoughtful. "You handled yourself well. You trusted us to do our jobs, and we trusted you." Mira, sitting cross-legged in a corner, offered a rare smile. "You've earned a little more of our trust today, Captain. Don't waste it." Lucas raised a glass of water, his voice light but sincere. "To surviving and to proving that chaos can have a purpose." The bondmaids raised their glasses in return, the bond between them stronger than ever. For the first time, Lucas felt that they weren't just surviving. They were becoming a family. And as the Sentinel drifted through the quiet of space, he knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The Sentinel's resolve limped through space, its systems barely holding together after the harrowing battle. The crew was exhausted, their battered ship a testament to the relentless pursuit of those who sought to capture or destroy the bondmaids. Despite their survival, the strain of constant threats weighed heavily on Lucas and his crew. As they plotted their next course, Mira approached Lucas in the dimly lit cockpit. Her silver eyes were sharper than usual, her expression guarded. "I've decrypted part of the transmission," she said quietly. "It's worse than we thought." Lucas turned to her, his brow furrowing. "How bad?" Mira hesitated, then handed him a data pad. The display revealed a bounty contract, one with astronomical rewards. It wasn't just a single bounty broker after them. A coalition of powerful factions had pooled their resources to capture the bondmaids. Each faction sought the women for different reasons: Zara's fiery reputation as a rebel leader, Mira's knowledge of classified technologies, and Lyra's strategic brilliance, which had previously turned the tide of wars. "They're not going to stop," Mira continued. "This isn't about money, it's about control. If we keep running, they'll just send more." Lucas clenched his fists, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "Then we stop running. We make a stand." Mira's lips quirked into a faint smile. "I thought you might say that. I've already plotted a course to the Griff Nexus, an abandoned station on the edge of the galaxy. It's a place where deals are made, alliances forged. If we're going to fight back, we need allies." The Griff Nexus loomed before them like a ghost of the past, its massive structure shrouded in a dense asteroid field. Once a hub of commerce, it was now a haven for smugglers, bounty hunters, and mercenaries. As the Sentinel docked, Lucas and the bondmaids prepared to step into the den of danger. Inside, the station was a chaotic mix of dimly lit corridors, bustling markets, and shadowy dealings. Zara took the lead, her fiery presence drawing attention, but also warning others to keep their distance. Mira stayed close to Lucas, her sharp gaze scanning the crowd for potential threats, while Lyra moved with the confidence of someone who had been in places like this before. Their goal was clear: find someone powerful enough to challenge the coalition of factions hunting them. But in a place like the Griff Nexus, trust was a rare commodity. They approached a towering figure in an intricately designed cloak, his face obscured by a shimmering mask. He was Veric Thorn, a notorious broker of alliances and a man who thrived on chaos. "You must be the human with the infamous bondmaids," Veric said, his voice smooth and cold. "Your reputation precedes you." Lucas stepped forward, meeting the broker's gaze. "We're looking for allies, people who are tired of these factions running unchecked," Veric chuckled, the sound echoing eerily. "Bold. But boldness alone doesn't buy loyalty. What are you offering in return? Mira stepped forward, her voice low and firm. I have information. The factions targeting us aren't just after power. They're hiding something. Something big enough to destroy them if it gets out. Varric tilted his head, intrigued. Interesting. Prove it. Mira handed him a data chip. This is just a fragment. The rest is encrypted. Help us, and it's yours. Varric studied the chip for a long moment, then nodded. You have my attention. Let's talk. The deal with Varric Thorn set the stage for their boldest move yet. With his network of mercenaries, smugglers, and rogue operatives, Varric coordinated a plan to lure the Coalition's forces into a trap. The abandoned mining colony of Cryon 7, located within an unstable nebula, was chosen as the battleground. Its volatile environment would level the playing field, giving Lucas and his crew a fighting chance. The bondmaids prepared for the fight in their own ways. Zara, ever the warrior, worked tirelessly to modify the Sentinel's weapons, her fiery determination igniting the crew's morale. Lyra strategized alongside Varric, her tactical mind anticipating every possible move their enemies might make. Mira, ever the shadow, ensured the Coalition's forces would arrive, believing they had the upper hand. As the Sentinel and Varric's fleet approached Cryon 7, Lucas addressed the crew. This is it. We've been hunted, cornered, and underestimated. But today, we turn the tables. We fight not just for ourselves, but for the freedom we've earned. The bondmaids nodded, their gazes fierce. Together, they had become more than survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. When the Coalition's fleet arrived, the nebula erupted with chaos. Plasma fire lit up the swirling gases as Varric's forces engaged the enemy head-on. The Sentinel darted through the battlefield, its newly upgraded systems outmaneuvering the larger, more cumbersome ships. Zara unleashed a barrage of precision strikes, her laughter ringing through the comms. Come on, you cowards, let's see what you're made of. Lyra coordinated the fleet's movements, her calm voice cutting through the chaos. Enemy flagship moving to Sector 3. Sentinel, flank them now. Mira worked in the shadows, slicing into the enemy systems. With each hack, she exposed their vulnerabilities, turning their own weapons against them. Lucas, at the helm, led the charge, his years of combat experience guiding every move. The bondmaids' trust in him, and in each other, transformed the battlefield into a symphony of precision and power. The battle reached its climax when the Coalition's flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, attempted to escape. Mira's earlier hack had disabled its primary systems, leaving it vulnerable. "Captain," Lyra said, her voice steady, "now's our chance." Lucas nodded. "Zara, finish it." With a fierce cry, Zara unleashed the Sentinel's full arsenal. The flagship erupted in a brilliant explosion, its destruction sending shockwaves through the remaining fleet. The Coalition's forces faltered, their morale shattered. As the dust settled, Varric's voice came through the comms. "Impressive. You've not only survived, you've sent a message." Back on the Sentinel, the crew gathered in the lounge, their exhaustion mingling with a profound sense of accomplishment. Zara raised a glass, her fiery grin wide. "To the chaos we brought and the peace we earned." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes shining. "And to a captain who proved he's more than just talk." Mira's enigmatic smile returned. "For now, we've bought our freedom, but the galaxy will always have its hunters." "Good thing we're not easy prey," Lucas replied, raising his glass. His voice was steady. "To us. To family." As the Sentinel drifted into the quiet of space, the crew knew their journey was far from over, but together they were unstoppable, a testament to the power of trust, resilience, and the bonds forged in the fire of survival.